5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's like Christmas Day for baseball fans. Happy opening day, everybody, and welcome into MASN All Access from the MASN Newsroom. I'm your host, Paul Mancano. In just a bit, we're going to have Orioles broadcaster Kevin Brown on the show. Better late than never. That's the motto for the 2020 baseball season as it begins 4 months after its scheduled start. We saw 2 games last night, really 1.5, but for 26 teams around baseball, today is the true opening day. And for the Baltimore Orioles, tonight they will open their campaign, their 60-game sprint, up at Fenway Park in Boston. Tommy Milone versus Nathan Eovaldi is the pitching matchup. And both these teams, like every other team around baseball, has a roster set at 30 players at the time being. Here's the Orioles' 30-man roster. Now, it will shrink in the coming weeks, but this is what it looks like for the time being. It features 9 guys who have made an opening day roster for the first time in their careers. Pitchers Cody Carroll, Travis Lakins, Evan Phillips, Tanner Scott, Cole Stewart, Cole Sulser, utility man Andrew Velasquez, and outfielders Austin Hayes and DJ Stewart. Not included on this list are Hunter Harvey, John Means, and Dylan Tate, who are on the 10-day injured list, all retroactive to July 20th. Richie Martin is on the 60-day injured list, as is Trey Mancini, who is, of course, undergoing chemotherapy treatments for stage 3 colon cancer. Now, speaking of Trey, he spoke with reporters on a Zoom call earlier today. He was his usual upbeat self. He is just about halfway through his chemo treatments. He has 5 left, and he says he should be done by late September. He's feeling good, but he certainly will miss being out there with his teammates tonight up in Fenway.
As far as today, yeah, it's strange. It's the first time since I was about 3 years old that I'm not playing baseball, during the year. So it's definitely a little weird. I watched the games last night, and it was great to see it back on TV. I mean, I got to say, it was so good to have live baseball back instead of, reruns from way back when, which I like watching too, but it was nice watching some new baseball. So, I'm really excited to watch the guys tonight. And yeah, it's tough not being there. I wish more than anything I could be out there with them. But I've definitely got bigger things to worry about right now. Yeah, I'll definitely still, I think all the guys know that too. I'll still be here if they need anybody to reach out to. And even yesterday I talked to Cedric a little bit, since he made the club. I think that was such a really cool story that he ended last year in Double-A and fought his way back and won himself an opening day roster spot. I think, after a year doesn't go how you expect and you can come back the next year and kind of build yourself back up. I think that's really cool. So I always want to, reach out to guys when stuff like that happens. I think just the shock of everything at the beginning and then having to go through chemotherapy, I didn't really know what to expect, but it's certainly not ideal. And I'm definitely looking forward for it to be over. But it just kind of puts a lot of things in your life in perspective. And pretty much before all this, I feel like the biggest, struggles I've gone through all had to do with baseball. I never really faced anything, kind of like a real life kind of crisis like this. So it put a lot of things in perspective. And I think in the future, it'll help me in baseball and in life. Just kind of putting things in perspective, I think is the big picture that I've seen. And, I realized kind of what's important in life during all this.
Always great to hear from Trey, who of course will be home watching tonight's season opener. The Orioles will also be without their best pitcher, John Means, who was named the opening day starter just 2 weeks ago before arm fatigue landed him on the IL. Instead, it'll be 33-year-old veteran Tommy Milone getting the ball in tonight's season opener in Boston. And as has been the case for most of John Means' career, circumstances outside of his control will keep him out of the spotlight. At 6'3", John Means is probably not great at hide and seek, yet he spent his entire career hiding in plain sight. even at a top collegiate program.
He didn't make all conference in college.
Or as a highly successful minor leaguer.
Never made a minor league all-star team.
Or as a rookie at the All-Star game.
I was joking around in the dugout because the minute I start introducing myself, they're going to be like, Who? Who are you?
Means has been overlooked at every stop of his career.
Means all of a sudden is in the conversation that we were excluding him from before. I kind of feel bad for the guy. I feel like I owe him an apology.
But the lefty probably prefers it that way.
I want to come in here still thinking I'm competing, still thinking that I got to go out there and prove something, and that's usually how I want to go out there and pitch.
Means spent 5 seasons toiling in the Orioles minor league system. The 11th round pick was never on any top prospect lists.
I didn't throw hard. I wasn't a prospect. I wasn't a guy that they looked as, trying to develop.
Means saw 3 members of his 2014 draft class make their Baltimore debuts before him. And it wasn't until September 2018 that he got the call.
I answered, and he's like, yeah, I've been throwing. Have you been, working out? And I'm like,
no?
Yeah. No, I was like, yes, I have.
But Means was nearly forgotten about by the following spring.
No offense to him, but before camp started, I would have given him probably a less than 0% chance of heading north with the club because he just wasn't in discussion.
He beat the odds to make the opening day roster. 2 weeks later, he joined the rotation. And by the end of June, he had a .250 ERA.
He has been a great surprise for the Orioles.
Means received an All-Star nod for his stellar first half, but even that was overshadowed.
Brock, I think everyone was really surprised when Trey Mancini didn't make the All-Star game.
It was shocking. I had a story ready to go. I won't lie.
You did.
This past spring, Means was no longer a roster hopeful. He was the presumptive opening day starter. And on July 10th, Hyde made it official.
For a guy to do what he did, it's a great story. He's definitely earned it, and we're excited to watch him pitch on the 24th.
But 11 days later, Means' fatigued arm forced Hyde to change course.
Now it's Tommy Malone who's going to be our opening day starter. He's never made an opening day start before. He's really excited.
What was supposed to be Means' big day will now be an opportunity for veteran Tommy Malone. But the 27-year-old should be back soon, and when he is, he'll have plenty more chances to step out of the shadows. Now we are joined by Orioles broadcaster Kevin Brown, who will be on the call tonight. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us here.
What? Baseball tonight? Oh my gosh.
Can you believe it? I mean, you are
hat ready and everything.
You look entirely ready to call this game. You got the hat, you got the T-shirt, you are up in Fed Hill, not in Boston. Why aren't you in Boston tonight, Kevin?
I have a flat tire.
Yeah, no, I stay behind on this road trip. Yeah, exactly. What's your setup going to be like for tonight for fans who might not know exactly what this is going to look like from a broadcaster's perspective?
Yeah, we will not be making any road trips this year. So every road game we'll be calling from Camden Yards. So I'll be with Jeff Arnold tonight. The radio roulette wheel landed on the 2 of us. Later in the year, Melanie Newman, Brett Hollander will be doing games with us. But Jeff and I will be in adjoining booths. One of us will be in the home radio booth with our producer engineer in the back, socially distanced. And the other one will be in the auxiliary radio booth to the right. There is a see-through window in between us. So we'll be able to have eye contact, communicate. We'll have, I haven't been to the park yet, but I'm told we'll have a 60-inch monitor. And we'll be able to not only see the program feed, which is the feed that you all will see on TV on the air, but also the other angles from the MASN television broadcast back in Boston. So we will be watching the game along with you from a monitor. We'll be very socially distanced from Boston, and we will be physically distanced from each other by the wall in between the booths.
It's certainly a production that everybody is putting on to do this, but I think it's the best possible way that they're going about this, and I'm interested to hear how it's going to sound, how it's going to look. I'm sure there will be no dip in value from your end because you've called games off the monitor before, correct?
I have called games off a monitor before. In 2014, I called 5 Yomiuri Giants games for a network called One World Sports, and they were at 5 and 4 in the morning and midnight. So, yeah, this should be a piece of cake, honestly. I've called a soccer game off a monitor before as well. So this will be a first as to the unique scenario of calling a Major League Baseball game and calling a game for radio off a monitor, but it is something I have done before.
Well, I remember a couple weeks ago we had you on the MASN All Access podcast talking about this day, talking about opening day, and at that point, it seemed like it was going to happen, but it wasn't 100% certainty, and certainly it wasn't months before, and way back in March when spring training was shut down. Did you think that we were going to get to this day, and at what point did you kind of realize this is actually happening?
I wasn't sure for a while. I mean, when Major League Baseball first came out with this 100+ page operations manual, I sat back and I said, whoa, this is not going to happen. I mean, there's so many hurdles to clear, and it's an amazing testament to baseball that we got to this part. By the way, my hair is now a fiasco. I'm going to work on that before the game while I'm on radio.
Yeah, you got to get your hair guy in there.
Right. Again, face for radio. I mean, I never really knew if we were going to get here, because you have moments like we had literally yesterday where Juan Soto tests positive for COVID-19 and his team is playing the Yankees that day. And he was tested Tuesday before an exhibition game with the Orioles. And we don't know if he was an asymptomatic carrier who could have spread that to other teammates or to Orioles players. So, you know, we're just hoping that all of the results for both teams come back negative continuously. But baseball has said, we know there are going to be positive cases, but I do believe in what they've done. I especially believe in what the Orioles have done, from what every player and coach says to a man about the stringent security and safety in place at Camden Yards. And look, the last round of baseball testing to have 0.05% positives is an extraordinary number. So I am hopeful. I am more optimistic than I've been, certainly because those numbers have been so low and because organizations like the Orioles have taken this so seriously. The players and managers come to their interview settings with a mask on, take it off for the interview. Some players, we say Anthony Santander wearing a mask on the field. Guys are taking this seriously. They are understanding their responsibility. And if that happens, I think we can make it all the way to the end here with a Major League Baseball season. I'm certainly more optimistic than I had previously been because of how seriously baseball has taken this.
Well said, and I know I share that optimism as well, as we're just hours away from the first pitch, and all signs pointing to opening day for 26 teams going smoothly today, hopefully, and then the 60-game season continuing as planned. Let's talk about the on-the-field stuff for tonight's game, the opener for the Red Sox at home in Fenway, and of course the road opener for the Orioles. Nathan Eovaldi going for the Red Sox, and Tommy Milone going for the Orioles. Obviously, we're all bummed that John Means is not going to get the opening day start that we had penciled in for him for months. But Tommy Milone, a 33-year-old veteran, getting this opening day start. He was signed during spring training back in Sarasota, and all of a sudden he's the opening day starter for the Orioles. So while it sucks for John Means, what a great story for Tommy Milone to be able to make this start.
I have to give my broadcast partner tonight, Jeff Arnold, credit. He did a little digging, and to the best of his knowledge, he asked a couple of people. The last non-roster invitee to make an opening day start that a couple of folks Jeff talked to could find was, I believe, Ron Vallone, no relation, for the 2002 Pittsburgh Pirates. So this is just such a bizarre scenario to have Tommy Milone make the start. I talked to Tommy 2 nights ago, and I said, look, a week ago, you were Orioles rotation candidate, Tommy Milone. You're now Orioles opening day starter, Tommy Milone. And the seriousness of this is not lost on him, in that John Means can't make the opening day start, which is truly unfortunate. In the second straight year, the Orioles have had that happen with Alex Cobb getting knocked out due to injury last year. But I feel great for Tommy. On a personal note, I started in baseball In 2011 with the Syracuse Chiefs, AAA affiliate of the Nationals, Tommy Milone was our best pitcher that year. So he was part of my first baseball team. And he, from day one, was such an approachable and lovely and thoughtful guy. And in talking to him in spring training a little bit, and then this week, he still is that guy. He's just about as nice and as mild-mannered as anybody in baseball. He's had a very long career, some successful years. He pitched in the postseason with Oakland in 2012. Tommy Milone is going to look a little bit like John Means. He's a strike-throwing lefty who doesn't throw that hard. Some will use the word crafty. Certainly he's here because of circumstance, but the Orioles are hopeful that they get the best version of him. And to go from a non-roster guy to somebody that was going to make the rotation in the first place says something about Tommy Milone. And I'm just rooting hard for him. Look, we root for all these guys, but Tommy Milone, and knowing him a long time ago and knowing him now, is such a genuine, decent human being before you even get into being a pitcher. And he can, when he's on his game, he can just dominate the strike zone and attack you that way. So I'm hoping we'll see that tonight.
That's special. I had no idea you had that connection with Tommy Milone. From our third-person perspective, we covered him when he was with the Nationals and now with the Orioles, and he does seem like that guy that you describe, and we are as well, rooting for him in this opening day start. Well, yesterday, right before the opening day for 4 teams around baseball, not the true opening day, they made a change to the playoff field, and they added 6 teams to the playoff field. So that means not 10, but 16 teams will be in the playoffs come October. Kevin, should Orioles fans have any other optimism, any increased optimism for making the postseason given the expanded playoff field of 16 teams?
Why not? Listen, everybody should have more optimism. I mean, half the teams are going now, more than half. So, look, I think the goal for this season continues to be, for this organization, player development, number one, and building your infrastructure, number two, building your analytics team, building your international scouting base, building the in-house databases that you have. And Mike Elias and Sigma, they're not taking their eyes off the ball here. They're not going to go out and make some win-now moves because they have a greater chance of making the postseason. I don't believe that. And I still think with the timeline of this organization, I don't think many Orioles fans are saying today, okay, now we make the push. You still play this season out from a developmental perspective. Look, this is a season where you want to compete because every team wants to compete. If you have the chance to win games, go and take the chance. But I think of this season as a fact-finding mission still. And the facts you're finding are who's going to be part of this thing. You know, last year we realized that maybe John Means can be a part of this organization in the long term. Trey Mancini is a little bit better bat than we had thought with the full season he had last year. Anthony Santander comes from nowhere. Austin Hayes has a great month of September. Now in 2020, is Austin Hayes going to be the guy? Is Hunter Harvey, when he gets back from his arm issues, going to be the guy in the 9th inning? These are still the smaller questions that I think the organization is committed to answering. And so I don't think they're popping champagne in the warehouse because a few more teams are added, just because it's not the timeline now. Now, Mike Elias would tell you that when the Astros were rebuilding, they'd never say, well, we're going to be competitive in year X. You don't want to tell the players, all right, we're going to be competitive in 3 years. Because then what the hell is there to play for, right? So that's not the mindset that these guys have. Richard Blyer talked about it the other day, 60-game season, why not? We have a better chance. Now they have an even better chance. So sure, statistically speaking, absolutely the Orioles have a better shot. It's still going to be a Herculean task given the timeline of this organization. But if you want to be optimistic today because there's a better chance, who am I to stop you? Be optimistic. It's opening day. Go crazy.
Absolutely. There's no better time for optimism than today. All 30 teams at this point believe they have a shot, and then as the season goes along, we'll see. And with this 60 games, we know that they will certainly be closer at the start of September than they were last year at the start of September, at least to a playoff spot. So there's always that glimmer of hope, especially on opening day. But I'm glad you brought up Trey Mancini, John Means, two guys that will not be with the team. Obviously, Trey Mancini not for the entirety of the season, John Means not for the start of the season. And I want to get your guess as to who might, at season's end, be the most valuable Oriole. Could it be John Means? Could it be a guy like Renato Nunez, who hit a bunch of homers last year? Or could one of these pitchers, other than John Means, in that rotation step up? After 60 games, what's your guess for the most valuable Oriole, Kevin?
I'm going to go slightly on a limb. It's not a huge limb, but I think Austin Hayes.
Okay.
I think Austin Hayes has a chance to be the most valuable Oriole, not just because of how he can impact games with the bat, but how he'll impact games in the field, and maybe how he'll impact games with his feet. I don't think there are going to be a ton of stolen bases this season, especially in a 60-game sprint, but Austin Hayes has the capability to do anything. I expect him to be at the top of the lineup most of the year. And look, if you're going by most valuable Oriole, if it's purely by, wins above replacement, by the numbers, I think Austin Hayes with a full season as a defensive center fielder, I think his defensive metrics and play will be pretty good. So I think he has a chance there. Renato Nunez, listen, 30 home run season last year. He hit 2 3-run homers against Nathan Eovaldi, so he's probably licking his chops before tonight's matchup with Eovaldi again. What will Nunez bring you in the field? Will he be the full-time DH again? Can Anthony Santander build on last year? Had a great first couple of months, faded down the stretch. Brandon Hyde loves Pedro Severino and loves what he's bringing. Maybe his defense improves. Maybe his bat continues to improve. So, look, Austin Hayes is a guy we talked about, I think, for years. He's barely played in the major leagues. And so that's why this is a leap of faith. He is the anointed everyday center fielder. He is the anointed leadoff hitter. He's played 41 major league games. So I understand that I'm even buying into the hype a little bit here. But with the opportunities he'll get, with the defense he'll play, with the tools he have, I will go out on a little bit of a limb. And I will say I expect a big year from Austin Hayes this year.
It is crazy you bring up his lack of experience at the big league level, but he certainly is a great candidate to be that most valuable Oriole just because of the amount of production we've seen in that small sample size. So,
who you got? Yeah. Who's your pick?
It might be Hayes. I think if Means comes back within a week or two, I think it's probably going to be John Means. If he ends up missing, 3 or 4 starts, that might take him out of the category. But for me, it would be John Means.
Also a worthy pick. And John Means, look, every projection system, every baseball numbers wonk that crunches career numbers and last year's numbers and age and whatever data they have, every projection system has John Means taking a step back this year. And I wonder if John Means is actually one of those guys whose changes last year, his changes in his embracing of analytics, and his changes in velocity and pitch selection, and just his IQ as a pitcher may actually outweigh those progression systems. I really want to see John Means take another step forward, and I think he can. I know that the folks who deal in hard data will say, well, we expect John Means to regress, and I get that. I'm a believer in baseball data, but maybe it's my human bias, but I think John Means has a chance to be just as good, if not better, this year. So, yeah, I want to see him get back on a mountain, and I want to see John Means put together a strong system and prove those statistical projections wrong.
Yeah, I mean, he did it last year. He was considering retirement at one point in his career and beat the odds to make the roster, beat the odds to make the rotation, and was an all-star nod for the Orioles. I mean, I looked at his second half last year, which he definitely struggled. He still finished the season with a 3.60 ERA, so there is still a lot of positives there, and a lot of positives to be gained from this Orioles 2020 season. We can't wait to hear you call the game starting tonight. Kevin Brown, thanks so much. Put on a nicer shirt keep the hat on, of course, for the game
you don't
tonight.
think I can wear this to the park?
I don't.
Look,
no one's gonna see you. No one's gonna see you, but
I'm wearing clothes in the booth at all, please.
Well, thanks so much for hopping on here, and we'll hear you on the call tonight.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, one thing the Orioles may lack this season, speed. That's almost entirely due to the losses of their top 2 base stealers from 2019, Jonathan Villar and Richie Martin. Villar was traded in the offseason, and Martin is on the 60-day IL. But there are some speedsters in the Orioles system who could inject some life into the O's run game in the coming seasons. What do you look for in a new car? Sure, safety, gas mileage, all that good stuff, but you probably would like something with a little more horsepower, right? Well, the Orioles are looking for something similar as they build their new offense, speed. Let's take a look under the hood. The Orioles of the mid-2010s were built kind of like a truck, strong, powerful, but oh so slow. Buck Showalter's O's never finished lower than 5th in baseball in home runs, but they were dead last in stolen bases for 4 straight seasons. Last year's Orioles were the fastest in about a decade, finishing just outside the top 10 in stolen bases. Now, losing Jonathan Villar throws a wrench into things. Villar's 40 stolen bases in 2019 were the most by an Oriole since Brian Roberts in 2008. But there are some guys in the system who could inject some life into the Orioles' run game. Maybe the best speedster in the entire organization is Adam Hall. The 21-year-old swiped 33 bags with Delmarva in 2019. Then there's Ryan McKenna, who racked up 25 stolen bases with Bowie. Cedric Mullins had a bumpy 2019 season, but it didn't stop him from stealing 34 bases across 3 levels of the organization. Now, Mike Elias placed an emphasis on power with the selection of Heston Kjerstad in the first round of the 2020 MLB draft, but he followed that up by taking speedy outfielder Hudson Haskin in the second. Now, the Orioles are due for an upgrade soon. Let's just hope that this model is a little bit faster than their last one. You simply cannot forget about the MASN All Access podcast. WJZ's Mark Viviano joined the most recent episode to discuss the state of the Orioles rebuild and the job that Brandon Hyde has done as manager. You can catch the MASN All Access podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Watch it on the MASN All Access Facebook page. Watch it on the MASN Orioles YouTube channel and subscribe while you're at it as well. That just about does it for MASN All Access today. Thanks to Kevin Brown for hopping on, and thanks, of course, as always, to Bobby Blanco and Hannah Broder behind the scenes. We have baseball tonight, opening day between the Red Sox and the Orioles from Fenway Park on MASN. 7 o'clock is when your coverage starts. First pitch coming just after 7:30. I'm Paul Mancano. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy the game tonight.